Those, and they've gone up, by the way. The recession special.
Yeah. I remember when those were $1. That's how much those should cost, in my opinion.
It would be nice. It was $4.95 for the longest time for 2 dogs and what do you call it? Papaya juice.
Yeah. Yep.
And
I
now
near one of those. They're really good.
$5.95.
That's just the economy
Typical.
is improving.
That's
so.
what I said. I guess the economy is improving. All right. Well, maybe we should do a show.
Right.
From the smallest room in New York City comes a show that gives you a reason to live. A D-trained masturbator from Queens busted in Brooklyn for masturbating on the D. In what's really an inspiring story of senior citizen can-do spunk, 62-year-old Confessor Pagan was arrested for the unwanted touching of himself in a subway station in Coney Island.
I'll do that one.
You've winced at the self-brutalizing antics of the human blockhead, thrilled and stared slack-jawed with wonder at the sword-swallowing, fire-eating human pincushion. Behold and be disgusted, the senior citizen D-trained Dick Diddler. You will be astonished by the vulgar, yet eerily graceful movements of his still nimble fingers. Carnival sideshow.
Haven't done this one in a while.
Retro priced at just $2.75. That's 22 bits. Please, only those brave of heart and strong of constitution enter the car if you dare. I defy you to look away from his mesmerizing gaze. Well, maybe it's not sideshow worthy, but Confessor was observed performing an act which is identified in the DSM-5 as jerking it at the Bay Parkway station. Caught red-handed in a brazen act of public self-fondling, perhaps in misguided tribute to the world-famous phallic shape of the island where Nathan's peddled the first hot dogs, shamefully displaying his own meat stick, bursting forth and hotly engorged in its own natural casing. Joining me now from Newsweek, Polly Mosens.
I love hot dogs.
Yeah, I think the last time I was down in Coney Island, the breeze would blow by about every 45 seconds to a minute and a half, filled with this like hot, fecal essence that was just inescapable. And people talk about Coney Island being a disgusting place, but that's the first time I had to just walk away.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. And I'm Ukrainian, so the Russians are established on the other side of Coney Island, Brighton Beach.
Yes.
Which we have our own meat stick products that you can go purchase right down the boardwalk. So whenever I go to Brighton Beach, I will walk over to Coney Island just to kind of see the train wreck, and then I will quickly go back.
Yeah, so
my own little Eastern European enclave.
I love Brighton Beach. It's very nice.
Hot
feel at
tub
home there?
initialized.
Kind of. The Russians don't really care for us Ukrainians, but I just don't tell them that I'm a Ukrainian so I can eat their delicious food.
Yeah, such as?
Pierogies are probably the number one. They also do this like deep fried, it's like a giant deep fried wonton, but Russian. But trust me, it's delicious. That description gives it no credit.
It doesn't really. It sends my imagination reeling. A 73-year-old Bronx woman was flashed by her accessoride driver. That's what it is. It's accessoride driver. Yeah, people who drive around.
Yeah, it's like the MTA, but if you can't get around yourself, they come get you.
Yeah, it's probably some kind of free service offered by this.
Of course someone is blowing leaves.
26-year-old Christopher Medina
while
dropped
I'm
off the
recording.
hag around
Of course they are.
10:45 a.m. and asked if he could use her bathroom. After she let him in, she heard him start moaning and went to see if he was all right. He was standing in her hallway with his pants down and his penis in his hands. Well, there's your answer. I guess he's all right. Now, the old lady screamed and ran away. But what did you think he meant when he said, use the bathroom?
Cool story.
He was charged with public lewdness. I guess if you're old, the lesson is don't let anybody into your house ever.
Yeah, no, I think that's... And I'm kind of surprised because if you're 73 and you've lived those 73 years in the Bronx, you've seen some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That might be like the least... I mean, I don't know. That's the least of your worries at that point.
Yeah, well, maybe... like she should have just been like, just lock the door when you're done. I think you become afraid. I used to wonder, like, why people seem to be afraid of masturbators. I mean, obviously, it's not something you necessarily want to look at, but I guess it's a precursor to a rape sometimes. You know, people will... They have to, like, masturbate themselves.
It's just a simple mission. I just fucked this up for no reason.
If you masturbate long enough, eventually...
Just because I got too close to that guy, I guess.
He walks onto this fucking car.
I definitely didn't touch them. Unless I
I
did.
think that's one theory. I think another is just there's bodily fluid involved, and it's kind of the same thing as when you see someone throw up. Like, you just
whatever,
don't
who
want to
cares?
get them near you in any
Who
capacity.
fucking
It's
cares?
just a
Polly, you're like a born romantic or something. Ejaculating, like throwing up. I guess it's true. You do want to stay away from it.
Yeah, it's even like if you see a very slobbery baby, you're just kind of like, I don't need that near me in public transit. I think it's the bodily fluids thing that
Slobbering
gets me.
baby, ejaculating penis, same thing. Get it away from me. Two charlatans swindled a dumb old lady out of a large sum of money with a pigeon drop scam that's older than Grandma's paisley shawl. Jamaica Queens, the earliest residents of Jamaica out there, they created a stream that flowed from a pond about 10 miles east of where I'm sitting in Astoria right now.
Why is there
Creek
whatever?
And into the bay. Now, do you know who those earliest residents were?
I do not.
They were beavers.
Yeah.
Prior to human settlement.
On
The
overkill,
first
we're
residents of Jamaica Queens, beavers. And they were there working on it. You know, they're builders.
They are.
They-
They're pretty decent.
They started the building here in New York City. Some aboriginals then of the Lenape tribe came along and said, hey, this area is teeming with beaver. They called the Algonquin word there. It's Yamaiko. But they settled near the southern end. The word got around about the
My
beaver.
name sucks.
And for hundreds of years before the colonial era, the Yamaiko tribe traded skins and furs for wampum. You know what wampum is?
Wampum? That's a shell. Is that some kind of shell?
You got it exactly
Yeah,
right.
I've been
It's
to
a
Long
shell.
Island. That seems like a shell.
And they used it for currency.
Oh boy. Oh
And
boy.
then it became just a general word. And that's also where we get the words like clams and shit like that. You know, the people using shells.
Okay.
And gradually a trail was cut that was used by tribes as far away as the Great Lakes and elsewhere in the Midwest. Finally, around
Let's do this
1650,
one. You can't fuck this one
Dutch
up.
colonists showed up. And they were like, yeah, we heard there was beaver. So then in 1655, the Dutch paid the Yamicos 2 guns, a coat, and some powder and lead for the land between the Beaver Trail and the Beaver Pond. Charter was granted to 15 English families by the Dutch West India Company, who started the settlement, and the Dutch named it Rusdorp.
That's awful.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
You can see how that didn't catch on.
Rusdorp.
Rusdorp. Yeah. Rest town is what that means for the Dutch. The English renamed it immediately when they took over in 1664.
Ah,
now,
cheater.
the Y sound in English is spelled with a J in Dutch. And when pronounced orally, Yamaiko became Jamaica. So the ancient trail used for beaver trade that I referenced, this, as far as up at the Great Lakes, these tribes coming in with their wampum. And when we come in wanting beaver pelts, they got wampum. that became Jamaica Avenue. And the beaver pond was filled in 1906. Now, 29 years later, a baby girl was born after the beaver pond was filled in. 80 years after that, she's standing outside 8035 Jamaica Avenue when she's approached by a woman who got out of a Jeep Cherokee. The stranger said she had a winning lottery ticket worth $167,000 in wampum. But she couldn't cash it because she's an illegal immigrant. Old lady, whom I've never met, can you help? I'll gladly give you a cut of the winnings. Around this time, a second flim-flammer shows up, and he tells Granny if she wants in on this sweet deal, she's going to have to pony up some collateral, you know, because you're holding the ticket at this point,
Right.
at least $7,000. But, you know, never mind the fact that if, like, let's say, if this was true, you've got a winning lottery ticket, $167,000. Like, give me $7,000 collateral. You just be like, okay. And you buy the fucking ticket for $7,000 and you still come out.
I mean, I think it kind of lost me when she actually talked to these people. What kind of 80-year-old person is going to just talk to... What kind of any New Yorker is talking to strangers about money?
I don't know.
I barely talk to strangers about directions.
Yeah. I barely want to watch a stranger masturbate in the hallway. The two people... Now, here's what she does. Not only does she give them the $7,000... She goes to the bank, gets a cashier's check for $90,000. They cash it. Jesus Christ, they drive her home, at least. They say, just go inside, bring us a utility bill to prove that this is your home and everything. And she goes in to get the bill. She comes out. Guess what? They're gone. And their history. Polly, do you have elderly relatives?
I do. I have a grandmother, but she is smarter than me and most of us, really. So I think that would not really have been her jam.
Is she still in Ukraine?
No, she's actually in Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Yeah, that was an interesting move.
So you're part Ukrainian, part Kentuckian?
Yeah, I lived there for about 10 years.
I love Kentucky. It's the only state that ends with Tucky. Yeah, in what part of Kentucky?
Lexington, which is the nicest part, arguably.
Well, I'd say that most people would agree. That's the equestrian area. That's where they have all the money and the Keeneland track.
College. We have basketball and whiskey.
Yeah.
We also burn a lot of couches. That's a big college activity there.
Couch burning.
Yeah. No, Kentucky loves burning couches.
Big in Kentucky. Yeah, I think that isn't that the name of the team of the couch burners?
It might as well be. It's a really big deal.
Why are you guys burning couches?
I have no good answer. It's just something drunk college kids do, both to celebrate and to mourn.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'll put couch burning above mattress carrying any day. I hope that this lady gets her goddamn money back.
Yeah, I do too. That's really kind of amazing to me that anyone still falls for that stuff. They even send flyers. The mayor's office sends those flyers of like, don't be... I could see if she gets her money back, though. They're like hardcore tracing those two people. They have pictures. They've got the description. They probably didn't make it far.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have hopes for this little old lady. Yeah. I think she's going to get her money back.
Well, me too, Polly. Let's hope so. Especially since you have an old lady name. Now that I think about it.
I do. I have
How did that happen?
My great-grandmother... Polly, so I'm a Polly.
Named Polly. Where would we tweet to you?
I'm just at Polly. That's why I get all that.
Oh, Christ. Anybody hating a Polly, you're going to get it.
Yeah, really, all of them. I mean, first name Twitter is good sometimes, but then sometimes it's just a dark place.
You bought an apartment and everybody freaked out about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was one of the first things I ever wrote about, but now that I'm sort of so far on the other side of it, I'm actually kind of thankful for the reaction because... anytime anyone is mad at me on the internet, I'm like, this is some JV level stuff.
Yeah, they came at you hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of a silver lining to that. Like, anything can make people really angry on the internet, and once you learn to deal with that anger, you're not really afraid of writing anything anymore.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the reaction? Now, your story was one where you talked about buying an apartment in Manhattan. You put down a $50,000 down payment on this apartment. It's in the West Village. You were paying $2,100 in rent prior to. This is over in Alphabet City. These people acted as if you dropped a gold anvil on their foot or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand the reaction in retrospect. When I was writing it, I didn't. But it was also one of the first things I'd ever written. And I was, obviously very young. It was a couple of years ago. But I guess I would say I do understand the reaction because I think it's really easy to be angry at the internet. And I think it's, in that particular story, there's a lot of stuff I should have worded better. I mean, I think I used the word nest egg for my down payment, and I should have probably explained that I've had a job since I was 14. And I didn't, go on spring break in college, and I had a college scholarship, thank God. And I think, in retrospect, I kind of get their anger because I should have done a better job explaining it to get my point across. Do I think it kind of justified the death threats? No, maybe not.
The way she put it was that during the French Revolution, this is what people cut off heads for. And then I think some editor must have gone, okay, you need to add, that's not a good idea in this case. That doesn't work here.
Yeah, I wish these people could come to my 400-square-foot apartment and see that me and Marie Antoinette really lived the exact same way. It's a luxurious, just French castle-style 400 square feet.
Can't you just acknowledge your privilege?
Yeah,
Can't you just tell us that your life, everything has been handed to you on a silver platter?
I think
you've never worked for anything. Just admit it. You've never had to do anything with it.
The one comment in that whole thing that actually genuinely did bother me was someone said that that my dad gave me all my money and that I'd never worked and I don't have a dad. So that was really the only thing that I would say genuinely hurt my feelings. That one was genuinely painful.
Do you remember where that came from? What the source was?
I don't remember what it was. I just remember being like, wow, this person is really just hitting home in a way they don't recognize that they're hitting home.
And isn't it funny how the people who profess to be the most feminist or sometimes the most anti-woman You know, in assuming that it must be your dad where you got the money from. It must be this patriarchal symbol who has given you everything. It couldn't be that you, as a young woman, earned it yourself, or that it came from a female source.
Yeah, my mom absolutely helped me out, and I don't like deny that. I don't think I denied that in the story either. I mean, I'm really lucky that my mom helped me, but at the end of the day, like, I was reading a story about making a good investment and trying to encourage other people my age to, if they can, to do that themselves and to try to save up. And I don't think that deserved that reaction, but I will also say I agree. I should have been better written. Even reading it now, I'm just like cringing because it should have been better explained. It should have been better written.
Well,
I
that continues for your whole life. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I don't like anything I wrote before about 3 weeks ago, and most of that is a little iffy. So
I can't imagine caring about it.
Not a stone like a rebel.
Who sends a death threat
down.
for that?
A woman has been charged with felony assault. A Brooklyn artisan
hard
mauled
and bought
within an inch of his life.
Is that bad?
55-year-old Cynthia Oliver accused of using her dogs as weapons to settle a street argument. And ain't that a pity? You bet it is. Oliver's 2 vicious pits nearly killed Francesco Bove as he showed up at Our Lady of Mount Carmel to do some restoration on the church. The dog owner told police that she sicked the dogs on Bove after an argument, but Bove says he never exchanged words with the woman. In fact, when Oliver let the dogs go, Bove thought they were running to say hello and to play. That seems pretty naive to me, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, no one is right in this story. I've been waiting to talk about this one all day. I love pit bull crime stories.
Oh, yeah, there are many.
Yeah, there are lots of them, and everyone always treats the pit bull like it's a suspect. I'm like, that's a dog. That lady is teaching these dogs to attack and then goes attack. The dog doesn't know any better.
The dog fully knows what he's doing. The dog,
the dog doesn't know anything else.
Fully cognizant of its bloodthirsty actions. You know, I mean, these dogs were. No, they are the product of the woman who.
Right, they're the product of a bad
fed
human.
them raw meat, trained them to, I suppose, fight,
fucked
and
up,
stuff like that. When this guy's blood was on the sidewalk, these dogs were licking it up ravenously, and then looking for him for several minutes after they were finally separated. They were really hot on the trail of eating this guy. They took his ear off. He was hospitalized. Yeah. So I think that the problem is not that in theory the dogs are so cognizant of what's going on, and not that the training doesn't have anything to do with it. You
done goofed.
Dachshund to attack or whatever,
yeah.
and they snap, but they can't do what these dogs can do, and they don't have the same instinct to kill that these dogs have. If I were to indict the breed, it would just be that it's like having a bazooka in your pocket. You know what I mean? It's just occasionally you're going to shoot your cock off.
I mean, I would say I blame the woman. I think the woman should be facing much stronger charges, because I would even give her an animal cruelty charge, because that's if she's only feeding them raw meat and she's spending her spare time teaching them to attack. Those dogs aren't, and they're chained up all the time. Those dogs aren't having a great life. They have no chance to be anything except for killers. What does she think the dog is going to be but going after blood? That entire story was just like, oh, that woman needs to be punished a lot more harshly than she is being punished.
This guy himself owns a pit bull.
It's kind of a matter of the human as much as it is the dog. I mean, I've seen a chow attack someone, and those things look like a giant Pomeranian.
Oh yeah, chows are vicious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as much the human as it is the dog.
Is there an uglier dog than a chow?
Oh, that's a good question.
A chow just has an ugly face.
But they're so fluffy, you don't really know what it looks like. It's just like a ball of fur coming towards you, perhaps viciously. You never know.
Yeah, and then you look a little more closely, and you're like, ugh, Jesus. Well, the priest was unable to get back to this guy because the guy was meeting the priest and was going to do some work on the church. It took several minutes before they could separate them. Did you watch the video?
I did. I saw I think the Gotham News.
Yeah, there was a video, and these, and I'll put that up on the New York City Crime Report Facebook page. These dogs who were white. I don't think this was racially motivated, but they were viciously biting, dragging the victim around the street. The guy was so weak that the priest gave him last rites.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy and biblical, that particular moment. The priest was there. It was all very dark. I'm very curious about this woman's motive.
I'm probably going to get booted for typing that.
Ever speak, did she have some kind of greater issue with his work, or like the fact he was going to meet the priest? I'm very curious why she did this.
She's like Brooklyn artisan.
Maybe she's anti-tiling.
Don't be sprucing it. She hates marble. She's jailed in lieu of $35,000 bail. Her dogs are known around the neighborhood, it said in the story. She has difficulty controlling them, feeds them raw meat. Now, if you have difficulty controlling the dogs...
Yeah, I think that's kind of the bigger thing here. I think also I am curious why she had 2 dogs close together all the time. Wouldn't you be worried about them attacking you if that's how you're keeping them?
People who own dogs are delusional, in my opinion. People who own dogs don't get that. Like, other people don't necessarily like this shit. So, like, oh, no, he's just saying hello. Yeah, he's about to bite my dick and balls off. You know what I mean? Like, I've had people do that. The dog is like, they say, well, don't touch him. Don't take your hands out. Do you have a dog?
I do not have a dog. In my spacious French castle that I live in, I could not fit a dog.
418 square feet of pure luxury.
Yes.
That's
maybe I could fit like a Pomeranian or like maybe I don't know something else like a wiener dog.
Pomeranian would be a really
could fit a photo of a dog probably.
And you got it's going to be bouncing around. I assume it's hardwood floors.
It is.
Do you have to walk up to it?
Yeah. There's 4th floor. I mean, you can take the elevator, but it doesn't work out.
Oh, you do have an elevator. Okay.
Theoretically.
I used to live on a 5th floor walk up down in Chelsea, 68 stairs or so.
Yeah,
not that I counted.
When I lived on Avenue B, I think I had exactly 56 steps, 56 or 54. But I remember coming home late at night. I was always just like, ugh.
$2,100 to walk up 5 flights.
Yep, and live on Avenue B. Oh, it was a good apartment, though. I almost kind of miss it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, larger than the current?
No, you know what? I liked my neighbors. We had a backyard, and there was a lot of stuff going on in Avenue B.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, like you mean like ethnic type shit? You mean like people cooking strange exotic foods and stuff?
It's kind of just everything. There was like of some days you just see a band come out of I don't know where and play. Then there were lots of these community gardens. One of them had chickens in it. That was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cheap tacos on my block.
And you go there to eat a taco, and like Bono's there. You know?
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's nice.
You turn around, and you're like, hey, that's the inside the actor studio fucker guy, whatever. I'm not going to talk to him. You ever talk to any celebrities that you run into?
No, I'm kind of scared of all celebrities. The only person I ever ran into that I actually really want to talk to is Louis C.K. And when I say ran into, I mean like I physically ran into him with my face.
But it was intentional. You were running at top speed the moment you saw him, face first.
It was extremely embarrassing. It was like my first week living in New York. I wish I had talked to him, but no, usually.
That shit always happens the first week you live in New York.
Yeah.
The first week I lived in New York, I had my apartment. I was looking out my window, and across the street, a completely nude woman, I could see through her window. And I was like, wow. And then like I came to the window at that time of day.
Over.
Every day for the next 6 months. And never again.
Never again.
Yeah, I thought this is going to happen every day, and then eventually, just before I moved, I think I saw it again. But it was like too late. I was jaded by that point.
Yeah, the guy lives across from me. He has a giant TV, and whenever there's 2 games on that I want to watch, I just stand between my TV and where I can see his TV, and that's all I get. I don't get any nudity. Just that guy's giant
sounds like that's
TV.
really what you're looking for. I think if you wanted the nudity, it would be there. Just take the D train to Coney Island, and you can catch that, or down to the World Trade Center, near where you were.
Oh, yeah.
Tourist attraction down there, meaningful national monument, I suppose. Now, were you here back in 2001?
I was not. I was living in Kentucky at that time.
Back in Lexington.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, because you're 25.
Yeah, 24.
24.
Yeah. I graduated college young, so I think that kind of threw me for the whole loop. I got a job
You know
young
why you graduated college young? Because you're white.
That's what it was.
And so rich. No, it's also a top target down there for those who wish to blow up American shit. In simpler times, we called them by a simpler name, evildoers, back in 2002. Well, a Queens man has tried to join ISIS. A 22-year-old Queens man has been arrested for attempting to provide material support to the Islamic State of Iraq. Brooklyn federal authorities say Ali Salah repeatedly tried to fly to the Middle East and join ISIS. And this is from the criminal complaint. United States of America against Ali Salah. He became interested in ISIL because they were having the most success against the regime of Bashar al-Assad, currently governing Syria, and because they would eventually establish a caliphate. He previously mentally swore bayat, which is an oath of allegiance to ISIL. He felt compelled to make hajir, the Arabic term for migration, to Syria. Approximately 1 year ago, 2014, he booked air travel from New York to Istanbul, Turkey, via Ukraine.
That's our bad.
With the intention of traveling by land. It's okay. From Turkey to Syria to fight for ISIL, and he ultimately did not get to travel at that time because his parents took away his passport. No need to argue. Parents just don't understand. Prior to his arrest, they had undertaken to move him in with his aunt and uncle in Bel Air.
Usually those shield guys are lower difficulties.
Yeah, that took me a second.
Like a little baby shield.
I read your coverage of this.
I write about this kind of stuff a lot. This is a big part of my crime beat.
The teenagers, young people
in ISIS.
Turning to ISIS. To what do you attribute that?
I mean, I think a lot of it is the digital aspect. They make these friends online, and these friends are, they're recruiters for the organization. Excuse me. And I think that's a really big part of it. They meet these people convince them it's such a great life. There's all these, I kind of call them jihadi memes that are going around where it's this beautiful sunset and over a desert, and there's this man and a woman, and she's completely covered, and he has his big gun, and they're walking off into the sunset together to be in love and fight the infidels together.
Jesus, where do I sign? That sounds awesome.
And people are convinced that that's really what it's like there, and then they try to go. I think a big part of it too is that Muslim youth in America are not treated particularly well, and unless they live in a neighborhood where they have friends that are in their culture and understand them, it can be really, really difficult for them to assimilate, and then they turn to the darkest thing that they think understands them.
It's true. Sometimes if you bring something that looks like a bomb to school, you have to go meet the president. That's on a different planet. We're in New York City. Now, this is, how many of these this year? There's been several, right?
I think we're up to 8, if my count is right.
Wow.
Well, if we count Jersey City, there were 3 women from Jersey City that got arrested.
Now, is it different for the men and the women?
Once they get there, it's really different. Yeah. But...
Well, what happens once they get there?
Well, the women aren't allowed to fight. There's this really interesting diary I found on Tumblr of one of the women that actually managed to get there, and then she put up all of the instructions that she thought fit to share with the internet. And I was reading through it, and she said the biggest thing is that you think you're going to be able to fight when you get there, but you're not. And you also don't really get to live with your husband. It's not like you're assigned immediately. You basically live in the world's darkest sorority house for a couple months. It's just all women, and you can't leave. And to go anywhere, even grocery shopping, you have to have a male escort to have you do that. And then you're married off to a complete stranger. Yeah. And if you do want to actually help the cause in any way, maybe you get to be a nurse, maybe. But you actually live a very isolated, sad experience. You're not really part of the caliphate. They don't respect women. Obviously, there's no women's rights in ISIS. Yeah. So they're not even part of the movement that they moved there to be part of.
Did you hear that, ladies? No women's rights in ISIS. Do you find that, in general, feminists are reluctant to come down on Islam?
Ooh.
It could be argued that there is some degree of anti-woman sentiment inherent in the religion itself, but you never hear that.
Well, there was a really interesting, I believe this might have been somewhere in Europe, maybe in Germany. There was a Muslim women's conference that was there, and this group that was very free the nipple, they're topless enthusiasts, they actually crashed the event. They're these very intense feminists that think women should, be topless as much as possible. That's kind of their movement, which, hey, if you want to do that and you want to show your nipples, more power to you. Go for it. But they crashed this event because they made the argument that the Muslim Women's Conference could not possibly be a feminist thing because these women could not be making any of the decisions on their own. And the women that were at the conference were saying, well, no, it's very much my decision to be here to attend this. And just because my version of being a woman and being empowered is not freeing my nipples doesn't mean that it's not my version of it. So I think that there is this kind of battle.
Now, was she stoned to death for saying that?
She was
for speaking to an infidel.
So I think that there is this fight that you bring up amongst feminists of sort of how should Muslim women be treated.
But I think for the most part,
I have friends that wear the hijab, and I think they're totally doing it because they want to do it. I would never be like, oh, the patriarchy is forcing this upon you. It's their call. I think that some people that are feminist, I would certainly call myself a feminist, might be better to leave well enough alone because it's something they don't understand and they weren't brought up in it. And if you're going to scream it's my way or the highway, that's not really being a good feminist and a good empowered woman. That's just forcing a different view that isn't male but is still harsh on another woman.
Fuck you.
I suppose so. But couldn't it also be argued that really the face and the nipple just two different degrees of nakedness. I mean, sometimes you see a hijab, and man, that's a sexy hijab. That's something you don't hear too often, I guess.
I've not heard that too
Check
often.
out that sexy hijab.
God damn
Well,
it.
there was one of my coworkers.
Very
interviewed
revealing.
her. Mia Khalifa, I think she's a porn star that did a porn movie wearing a hijab, and that caused the internet to just lose its mind briefly.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, but apparently she made a lot of money off of it. No one'd ever done it before, so she did that.
It seems as if they mistreat women in Muslim countries quite a bit, and worldwide, they're the worst offenders in terms of female rights. There's still a lot
Right.
of, what do you call it? They cut the clit off. It's a mutilation, genital mutilation.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
Saudi Arabia is one
you
of the worst. I mean, women
fuck.
still can't drive. There's a very prominent female journalist arrested for driving recently. Voting is barely a thing there. They're just now getting around to that, so they're about 100 years behind. So, I mean, absolutely, I think there's a lot of issues with that, but I think part of it has to come from within. The West and Western women can't, force change upon it. I think at some point it's going to come from inside the female Muslim community that they're going to spark change and have it properly, happen. I think that's really sort of something that's of a waiting
Yeah, but I
game.
mean, in terms of cultural change, when it seems as if there's so many microaggressions by men, which are, I mean, they have to be understood as accidental, habitual at worst, and then our government, involved with Saudi Arabia on all sorts of levels. We have a close relationship as one of their many wives. How come there's not more of a protest coming from, hey, wait, why are you, doing what? We are angry with the government for trade, instead of saying, you touched my tit with your elbow.
I mean, I think when you bring up Saudi Arabia specifically, there are a lot of Western women, myself included, that are quite frustrated with the way the American government treats them. I mean, it's really kid gloves because of oil, quite clearly. And I think
But
part of it...
which is fine, but I just don't hear anything coming from the feminists on that. I've never heard, hey, Islam mistreats women, what the fuck, and it's particularly in Saudi Arabia, why are we doing? I understand that the government is going to go, well, we got to do what we got to do, tough shit, but I just don't even hear a whisper about
because
that.
it's not... For my opinion, I can't speak for the entire feminist movement, and certainly not the loudest feminists out there, but I think part of it is that you can't really make the arguments just Islam fundamentally mistreats women. I think you have to kind of make it a bigger political argument, like factions of the religion or, particular really conservative imams within the religion do this, or, some men that went to a particularly conservative version of Islam do it. I don't think you can just say the whole religion. There are certainly a lot of factions of it, particularly in the United States, where women aren't mistreated. So I think it's
sure, but I hear no version of any of that, though. No version of even if you don't condemn the religion as a whole, or whatever.
Well, I think next time all us ladies get together in a giant room, I will say.
I'm not putting it on you, Polly. Trust me. Hey,
I think
anybody
that's a good point.
anybody who's had their ass handed to them in Jezebel is on my team, as far as I'm concerned. But
I think it is a larger discussion to be had. I've certainly, heard some parts of it being discussed in the women's community, but I do think it's an ongoing conversation because you don't want to fall into this trap of blaming the religion as a whole. It's a really delicate conversation to have, and it should be had with Muslim women on your side, because that's the other thing that's really hard is a lot of these conversations start when someone from inside actually comes out and says, hey, we need help with this, we need the public's recognition, and when you are quite literally not allowed to leave the house with a male escort, it's really hard to make that first step. So I think
are you kidding me?
The feminist movement
Eat shit!
is most angry at white men.
I'm not talking to the...
and really, almost
podcast.
entirely at white men. And I feel as if the word white gets thrown in a lot amongst, complaints. But even in you, with your story. I saw one particular writer, she said, she's privileged and most likely white. Why is that? Why do you think that the feminists seem to be so much more angry with white men rather than any other race?
Well, I mean, I'm a feminist, and I would disagree that I'm angriest at white men. I wouldn't really say I'm aggressively angry at any person in particular.
I wouldn't have guessed that you strongly identify. As a feminist, although
the basic definition of feminism is just equal rights for men and women. I think most human beings would identify themselves as a feminist when it's something when you explain it, so simply.
Which is why I say that. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a a generic thing now. Where it's
Oh,
Right,
God damn it, I'm
most
always
people
reloading with these
Men and
fucks.
women are feminists because all of that it means is that you agree that men and women should have equal
right.
rights.
So when I talk about feminists, I'm talking about it always seems to ring loudest against us. Is it because they identify us with the patriarchy, their fathers, all the presidents that we've had? Therefore,
Well, I was going to say, I think the political aspect of it is huge. Like the president, I think that's a big part of it when you see all these men in power that are primarily white men, and they're the men that are in power in your life. Maybe not in all women's life, generally speaking. It's not when you look at the global world of women at all, but certainly in their lives. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But I think part of it, too, is that the loudest women in that movement are always going to be heard over perhaps other women that do bring up other issues. So that's sort of how you mentioned you haven't heard a lot of the feminist movement discussing the Islamic thing and sort of how can we help women that are generally battered in those situations. I think that conversation is ongoing, but we're not the loudest and our blogs aren't the best read, and that's a big part of it, So I think I get what you're saying, but there are so many different factions of the feminist movement. Not all of them are equally heard.
it's unfortunate. Common sense really gets drowned out online, doesn't it? Well, this guy who we started off talking about, Salah. Another guy from Queens
Get
trying
back to him.
now when the boys sign up, it's for adventure. When the women sign up, it's because they get a husband, maybe.
Yeah, I think love is a huge driving part of it. I mean, I think it's almost like an underestimated driving part of it. Like, you have to recognize that these people start talking online, like they kind of meet their husband on Twitter in a lot of cases. So it's like the world's longest OkCupid digital date in a lot of these cases. That's a big part of it. For the men, it's totally an adventure thing. It's, they think they're going to be a big, powerful guy. There are virgins at the end of it for them.
And people want to have a mission in life, I think. They want a purpose. And young people, particularly when they're in their teens and late teens, early 20s, they have this idea that, like, yes, now I have a cause.
Yeah, I think that's a really big part of it. They have a cause, they have a mission, they have something that they're working towards. It's also kind of a dangerous mission, so in their head it's like there's excitement and like power involved in it, but I think they have no idea exactly what they're getting themselves into from a distance. I mean, just getting from Istanbul to the Syrian border is an extremely difficult 14-hour journey, and if you don't want to get caught, you have to hop between cabs, and it's very difficult to orchestrate. You have to be in a shipping container in some cases if you want to get into Syria. So they really have, they have no idea what they're getting into. I mean, they're looking at, this trip to the Islamic State and to the Caliphate completely through the lens of America and how easy things are here. So that's another big part of it, that they really don't know how hard it is, and once they arrive, they don't know that they can't get back no matter what.
Oh, they think it's like getting past the desert level on some video game they're playing or something.
Yeah.
But this is a reality where you're actually hiking. You're actually like traveling in conditions that are not so hospitable.
Right.
We're probably spoiled compared to the average, I guess, terrorist family.
I would certainly say so. I mean, I think another part of it is all these people are getting caught on Twitter, so I have to give Twitter some credit. They were getting really railed against for letting these accounts stay live, but now that these accounts are able to stay live, the authorities are able to get into them, check their DMs, see exactly what's being discussed. So a lot of those cases that have popped up in New York this year, it's because the authorities were able to see these accounts tweeting at one another, and then they caught them from there, which is kind of an amazing use of Twitter for good instead of evil for once.
If they're a darknet Twitter, that's what they need.
I'm sure there's also like Pastebin.
Woofer, maybe, like Pastebin.
Yeah,
What's
Pastebin. It's basically a service where you can post anything in a text form online and leave it there to be found, more or less. And in a lot of cases, you'll find jihadi materials on websites like this. Journalists, we troll through them day and night, basically looking for stuff, and you can find an awful lot of stuff. Usually, if you do a Google image reverse search, so if you have a picture you found on Twitter, you put it into Google image search, you can usually link it back to a Pastebin account, and then you can just look through what they're writing, what's on there, what are they thinking. So on one hand, the digital aspect is sort of why this has become so prevalent. On the other hand, it allows us to trace and understand and, stop a lot of these people.
He tweeted this: "I'm ready to die for the caliphate. Prison is nothing." It seems to indicate a fundamental lack of understanding about the nature of death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, death isn't so bad. You get 3 meals, you get to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been personally, but from my understanding, it's not great. But I think, I mean, for him, death means something very different. It's not a dirt nap, as many people would describe it, or heaven or hell, whatever you believe in. But for him, it's a very...
Is that the Ukrainian belief, dirt nap?
So for this guy, it's not a dirt nap. I mean, for him, death means something really particular, that he's accomplished, what he needed to accomplish for the caliphate, and that his religious leader will reward him in the afterlife. So his version of death is so different that, when you compare it to virgins and eternal salvation and, being respected as a martyr, prison does seem pretty awful when you look at all of those mystical things.
Well, yeah, contrast that with, exactly, living on a cloud and getting your cock sucked by all these virgin, undoubtedly toothy ladies, who don't know what they're doing yet. That's what you're training women for all of eternity, how to suck your cock. And we talk about Rikers, man. Holy shit, about being bad.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's such a good book coming out. The woman that worked in the mental health department at Rikers for, I think, about 30 years.
The mental health department? You mean solitary?
She was the in-between person where someone's trying to get out of solitary by killing themselves. She had to make the judgment call of whether they really were a danger to themselves or whether they wanted attention.
Yikes.
Yeah, can you imagine doing that job?
That would be the worst.
Yeah, she wrote a book about it.
How do you decide such a thing? Like, you seem okay. I think you're faking it.
Yeah, she said she got really jaded. Like, at one point, a man snapped a neck bone, but it wasn't the neck bone, so she was like, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh, boy.
Just fucking...
Yeah.
Did he later succeed?
No. So I guess she made the right judgment call. But,
it seems like you don't always get those warnings, too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there was a guy who ate that ball of soap. It was lying. Yeah, he just swallowed it, and he's like, I ate the soap. And they're like, okay,
Yeah, she made a bad call in one I was reading about. This man had smeared feces all over his cell. And she thought, if I take him out of solitary, I'm just going to see everyone else doing that because they'll know that works.
And then there's going to be all that cleanup.
Exactly. But
then he's going to really stink.
Yeah, then he tried to hang himself, and he didn't succeed in hanging himself, but she realized, I didn't make the right call on that one.
Sure. I think if you get to that point where you're smearing feces all over your cell, then there's a desperation inherent in that.
Right.
That is beyond... You gotta mean it to do that, I think.
I think so. Also, that seems like it would take a long time. I don't think...
It depends on your diet. But yeah, even if you're trying to pull a fast one, like, I'm gonna get out of solitary, I'm not... I will not do.
No, that's a good point.
That is beyond the line.
I'm really looking forward to that book coming out.
It sounds.
Read.
It sounds. Feces on the walls. It's the title. Do you have the title?
Oh no, I don't know what the title is. A New York Post wrote about it. I'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Definitely send me the link. And you can tweet Polly.
Please stop getting free.
Polly. Polly. It's actually her. And you can also tweet at us. That's NYC Crime Report. Tweet at me. I'm verified. Are you verified?
I am verified.
Well, how about that? A couple of verifieds sitting here. We don't mean to lord it over you people, but we do have that blue check mark. Pat Dixon is my name, and I host this show at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. We have a live show coming up on the 29th. It's at Broadway Comedy Club. It's on 53rd between 8th and 9th. It is a free show, yes, but I do appreciate it if you can make reservations so I know you're coming. There's also, if you did want to donate $1, I wouldn't turn it down, for Christ's sake. It's you can get that Eventbrite link at my website, crimereport.nyc. You can also get it on my website, Pat Dixon NY. Nobody's listening now. That's why. That's the beautiful part of this part of the show. They're just gone. They check out. I don't blame them. I can't say as I blame them. It's
how to get those plugs though.
crimereport.nyc. Yes, absolutely. And where your writing is readable on Newsweek. Yep,
I'm the only Polly that works for Newsweek.
You're the only one.
I'm the only one.
Wow, I guess they have a younger type of 20. You're 24. You're writing for Newsweek. geez, I mean, what are you trying to prove here exactly?
I want to take over the world. No, I really like Newsweek. They're awesome. I really like their take on news. It's really fair, and that's part of the best thing about working there is that it's never like the slanted bloggy style. It's just, this is what happened, and we're here to tell you about it.
A truly objective news source. Is that what you're trying to tell me Newsweek is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
That's
fuck
online,
you.
Newsweek.com.
Yep, newsweek.com, or you can actually buy it in print if you are a dinosaur.
Some people do.
Yeah, no, people do. I do sometimes.
Oh, good.
I just
MILF
like,
hunters joining.
Yeah, it's static. Well, it is there's an element of shame though sometimes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like that people have, and that's unwarranted. And the subway is another thing. You get felt up on the subway. There's this denial. I was on the train the other day, and it got crowded. A tourist woman was standing right against the rail, and she had a smile on her face, and it was an uncomfortable smile. And she had friends with her, and I was kind of monitoring. Like, I mean, I'm not.
Fuck,
like,
are we going? I'm all
people.
I'm all spun around.
This guy seemed like I could take him. You know.
Oh.
He had the worst rug I've ever seen.
There
He
you
had like
go.
a Joe Paterno rug.
Ooh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Just a solid black, kind of like if it was on the ground, you'd stomp on it.
Yeah, I know the one. But see, I don't know. I'm a mean lady on the train. If anyone gets even like too close, I'm nope, no, none of this. I'm not that molestable though. I'm really tall. That kind of.
How tall are you?
I'm almost 6 feet.
Oh,
so
yeah, okay.
I'm not really the target on the subway.
The tall girls don't take as much abuse, huh?
I think because maybe we can take them. You know?
Yeah. They're more reluctant to fuck with somebody who is, And you don't seem like.
Well, I
somebody
can't help you
who
down
would
there.
be easily pushed around either. I think it's the demeanor.
Yeah.
You have that Ukrainian blood, and plus the Kentucky thing. You
Yeah,
know?
it's a weird dark combination.
Because you're missing several teeth. No, it's not. But it's they do go for vulnerable.
Fuck me, I'm almost out of
And
ammo.
here's something. Now, victim blaming is obviously out forever. You don't ever do that, and you don't even want to do anything that sounds like victim blaming.
Right.
You know. However, this is a fact. They interview a guy who is a sex offender who raped, who then cooperated with the police, and they say, "How do you decide
Sniper
who you're
looking
going
at
to
me.
attack? How do you decide?" And he says, "I attack women who are dressed in short skirts because it's easier." And that's it. I mean, that's that's his motive behind that. It isn't so much that it's like, I find it so sexy
This is
I
going
can't
great.
control myself, which is the way I think that sometimes gets understood when you say, like, well, I mean, and even if the what are you wearing type shit,
Fuck.
what I mean, what were you wearing? That's obviously judgmental if you're saying it in that way. I think there's a misunderstanding that happens
me.
though. If you
Fuck
say, like,
me.
"Well, yeah, you're
Fuck
obviously
me.
putting
Fuck
yourself
me."
in danger. Should you be able to
God
wear anything
damn
you
it.
want to go around? Of course. Should you be able to? Yes. However, according to this sex offender, the possibility is greater that you would be attacked. So how would you address that?
I think it also, you're talking about one particular kind of sexual assault, which is, strangers that are raping, strange women that they find.
And
but-
limiting the conversation to that.
And that's a
right,
fail.
Right, because there's so
This
much
is
sexual
why I
assault
don't
that
do
happens,
Aftershock.
among family members and things like that, where they're looking for the quietest victim. They're looking for whoever's, whoever's most, vulnerable. So that's that whole other thing. But I think that's the forever debate, sort of like, can you tell women that you are going to be more vulnerable if you do this? But I think you really just... There are people that are, wearing a floor-length ball gown with like 3 petticoats underneath it that can still get attacked by a guy.
Yeah, but they got to be really hot. I think maybe warning labels on miniskirts.
That's what it should be. What about warning labels on men? Just right on the penis. Just on the zipper.
Are we talking... Well, by the time you get to it, it's too late. He's like, "Can you read this warning label
And
really
I got
quick?"
a big red one.
Well, hey, look at it this way. It's not men, it's criminals. It's not men, it's rapists gonna rape. You know what I mean? It's not like rape goes up. No, rape has actually gone down.
It has, yeah, drastically.
Drastically. And I would argue that, like, women wear more revealing things now than ever. So it's clearly not related to that. That's just a fact. But warning labels on the short skirts and dresses, just a thought. I'm throwing it out there for the fashion, and for whoever controls these things at JCPenney and Marshalls wherever you buy your fine miniskirts.
Wherever you procure such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Hey, if that's what you want to do, I'll get you a giant flag. Just wave it above your penis and warning: do not attend. Do not come near.
I don't want them to have a warning about my penis. It's you have to have the element of surprise, you know, and that's even if you're not raping somebody, you know.
It's just normal.
Just talking to somebody, and you think maybe, well, you don't want to do it. You're going to scare everybody off.
That's true. But maybe if you had to give him out at the hospital when like a mother had a boy, you just say, well, man, you're going to have to deal with this now.
Or just castrate every boy when he's born, you know. Some women are so feminist, they think we don't need men. Let's just do this. We need to cut. I've heard this, 10%, cut it down to 10% of people being men.
All right.
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, how many? Is 90% women? What do we get? Like another life form in there?
Yeah, dildos. That's what you get.
Well, did you see the story about sperm actually being produced in a laboratory, like independent of a man?
No.
We are on our way.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're going to crowd you all into an underground chamber. You wait.
That is okay. That is okay. I'll be long dead by the time that happens. But it is happening. Trust me. I believe that with all my heart. It's funny that, like, when I profess these beliefs, like what you just said, they wrote their angry comments and they left. And they slammed the door on their way out. But I still feel as if there's some resistance to this idea that women are becoming the dominant gender. There's no question about it.
Well, thank you. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, and you know what? People like you have earned it. You know what I mean? Like you're working very hard. You're ahead of the curve. You're out there and you're reporting, and you're claiming to be.
Stop moving.
What do you call it? Objective. Subtly slanting opinions of everybody. Yeah, there's always an agenda, right?
I mean, maybe I have an unpopular opinion here, but I think we're going to kind of be stuck at this like 50-50 men-women thing for a while. It's the thing about men and women is that we very unfortunately need one another, both physically and mentally.
That needing relationship is what the feminists are trying to destroy, and I can give you examples. The Go Topless Day March, the parade. Now, their spoken agenda is to desexualize the breast, make it not attractive to men, not something that they want to see, not an object of sexuality. Well, what happens then? You limit the sexual attraction between men and women.
Who is fucking tasing me?
You've ruined the fun of the tit. So
seriously,
you see the result of that. Obviously,
who is tasing me?
A lessened, sexual attraction and desire between men and women. Why is that a good thing?
I mean, I think part of why it is a good thing, to disagree with you a bit, is because then you get away from the danger aspect. I think if you lessen, the stigma around that this is a sexual thing, then you're not going to have men attack women when their breasts are out as much, and you're not going to have that same, the guy on the subway that has his arm around just below her breast. That's because breasts are this tantalizing thing, and if she had a low-cut shirt on, he wants to be closer to them. So I think,
but if it's not sexual, right? But you could say that that they're not like an object of sex, so therefore he's not coming. It's not a sexual assault. He just has his arm around this non-sexual part of her body, as it would be for a man. If we don't take it seriously, if we don't take it if it's not something to be revered, then who cares, If I touch a woman's breast accidentally, or if my elbow brushes against just a part of her chest, then it's no longer sexual assault, right?
I mean, I think if that's the direction we're heading, we're going to need a couple 100 years to get there. I don't think that's something that the desexualization of the breast is going to take a very long time.
Well, I think that there's two kinds of people that are out there doing that sort of thing. There are the kinds who are walking around who genuinely hate men and want to desexualize the breast, and they aggressively want to put this in everybody's face who's going to hate it. And then there are the horny girls who have glitter and hula hoops, and they're like, "Why are you making this sexual?"
I mean, I think there is an in-between of women that just I want to be topless today, and that's what I'm going to do, and fuck anyone that has a problem with that.
Yeah, that's the second type.
Well, even if they don't have glitter?
It's subtle, yes. It's subtly the second
then
time.
I have to ask, just to bring it back to the New York thing, what do you think of the Times Square desnudas? Because that's a really interesting New York debate of toplessness.
It sure is, and I have to say I'm all for it. I think it's a great thing, and those are people who understand what toplessness is all about. A hustle. Use it to make a little money. The Daily News vilifies the men who go down there with them as pimps, makes them sound as if they're exploiting these women. You can't force a woman to hang out in pain all day if she doesn't want to. It's just like there's no exploitation inherent in that. The guy serves a function. He's there to break up any beefs and stuff like that. So I have no problem with the pimp. I've got no problem with the whore. I've got no problem with the hustle, the tourists, the photos, and there wasn't any problem with them at all until they started appearing on the newspaper covers every day.
Well, de Blasio is very sensitive to how he appears in the press. I mean, the New York Post had that amazing cover when there were reporters who went undercover and worked with the man that is often vilified in the Daily News, and she was saying that he legitimately did protect her when someone, tried to grab her, he immediately shut that down. So I think they actually do offer a legitimate level of protection for those women. It's not just about taking 30% of their money. It's definitely as part of it, that he is helping her in some way. Someone's got to hold her clothes, right?
Yeah, sure. Somebody's got to hold her clothes. Somebody's got to take the photo.
Some of them also work with their family members. They have like a cousin or something that they're working with, so they're not even with, the men that are in the Daily News. So it's not like all of these desnudas are only working for this one guy and he has some kind of monopoly over the paint in Times Square. There's plenty of room for plenty of naked ladies and their, partners or protectors, whatever you want to call them.
As far as I know, they aren't like drumming out anybody who tries to sneak in either. So if you wanted to go into business for yourself,
by all means,
always good to know. All you have to do is take your shirt off and throw a little paint on it.
Yeah.
Now it's art, and you can.
That Post reporter made $300 in like 8 hours. That's not a bad living, tax free.
And she didn't have particularly nice, physical tits, is what I should say. You know what I mean? Like she was
Physical
like
tits.
chested. Yeah.
Well, she was a very pretty girl.
I think her emotional tits were huge. Her psychological breasts were big and round and bouncy, but physically, it wasn't bad, not at all. I mean, she didn't look bad, and at least she went all the way with it too. She didn't try to cop out with the pasties and whatnot.
She had the whole thing. It was really cool. She had the feathers, the paint. No, I was all for that. That's some great undercover journalism. I'm just mad I didn't think of that first.
Really? Would you love to go down there for Newsweek? Maybe you could still pitch it and go, I know it's been done once, but there's still
I think there's also there's power in having done it on the New York Post because I saw something. A guy reached into a garbage can to pick up that cover because he was like, I need to know what this story is about.
No,
that is
so
some
true.
good journalism.
It sells newspapers, and that's
again,
what it's all
who's
about. And I
tasing
think that the Post finally said, wait a second, hold on. We've said all the bad shit we can say.
Yeah.
In order to justify continually putting this on the cover, we have to change our editorial policy. Let's send a reporter in. And she, or maybe it was her, but she changed the whatever that is that they're saying because the Post was one of the first to come out and be like, what's going on down here?
It was her idea. Yeah, she actually went to her editor and said, can I do this? And they weren't going to put it on the cover at first. And she said, no. If I'm doing this, we're going to take pictures. We're going all in. Yeah, it was a good story.
Yeah, smart. That we might check out that new station on the extension of the 7.
Ooh.
Haven't been to that yet. Been to that?
I have not been to that yet. I'm very excited that the MTA did something, though. Just anything.
Yeah. They completed a thing.
They did. They completed a thing.
It's like a citywide standing ovation. Like, you guys did it.
I've been waiting for that 2nd Avenue subway my entire life.
As my mom used to say, God rest her soul, you can wait in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. Because that thing is not going to be done for a long, long time.
No, I'm hoping my grandchildren get to ride it. That's kind of my dream at this point.
Well, you better get started on that. You're getting up there. 24, time to find a man.
Not in New York.
We're going to go down there. And why not? Well, because it's 2-1 or something like that. It's hard to find a man. A lot of gays.
No, I just don't want to find a New York man. That's all.
Why not? There's every kind of man you could possibly want lives in the city.
Yep.
You gonna go back to Kentucky? Find a Kentucky man?
No, I'll find one of it. He'll
Household
find me. That's kind of my
initialized.
plan.
Go to Ukraine. Find
He'll
yourself
find me. I
some
can't.
sort of.
I can't Tinder anymore. I've OD'd.
Well, there's a lady who was kayaking, as you know, with her considerably older partner, and his kayak tipped. She sort of kept him from keeping the oar. Her name's Angelica. I can't remember her last name.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
my coworker Max had a great story about this.
No
Max
kidding.
Gutner.
No. All right, I will. Yeah, Max Gutner, and you guys look forward too. And I'll. Oh, you know what? Just send me the link, and I'll put
Yeah.
it up on the Facebook page. This woman claims, since English isn't her first language, which clearly it's not yours either. I'm sure you started with Ukrainian or whatever they speak, Russian. Is that what-
Ukrainian is the
Ukrainian.
language. I also speak Russian, but Ukrainian is my first language.
Wow, how many do you speak?
Just those three. Kind of
Okay.
French-ish.
Okay, so this being not her first language is a problem.
What
because
is
she's
with this
interrogated.
fucking music?
But when you hear her speak, she sounds like fine. Do you think, in this particular case, do you believe the defense
Oh,
that
this is
they
terrible.
advance that the cops coerced a confession out of her based on what a dumb immigrant she is who speaks multiple languages?
Well, they were saying that a big part of it was like her tone, that they felt she was being very cold and icy. That she didn't want to be a big part of the funeral and the memorial service. And they're saying that that was all a cultural issue. That in Eastern Europe, that's not something that's really done, and therefore her entire demeanor was so stone cold and strange for these American police officers. What I will say to that is, Eastern Europeans aren't so weird stone cold creatures. We also have memorial services and are sad when people die. So I don't totally buy that she was so greatly misunderstood by police.
Well, also she also said I was glad that he was dead, and it didn't bother me, and I wanted him to be dead. Things like that. This
Yeah,
is
that doesn't
paraphrasing
help
a
her
little bit. But
case.
yeah, that's more than observing a lack of compassion. It's like, oh wow, okay, she's really
Yeah. I think also any time that a couple goes out and only one of them comes back, you gotta look real hard. That's no matter who, if the man or the woman goes missing, you just see that's where you're
Oh, boy.
first.
I just say
fuck me.
no to anything that sounds anything like that. Always kayaking,
Come
no.
on.
No, I'm indoorsy. I don't really like nature.
Yeah, so you're not going to catch me out there. You're a great guest. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Will you come back?
I
again?
will come back. This was fun.
Okay, great. And that's Polly and Mosens, and you can read her in Newsweek, Newsweek.com, and
Yeah.
even in the actual the physical copy if you feel like it.
Oh,
I
come
thought
on.
they went out of business.
We came back.
You
We
came
went
back.
out, and then we came back.
Polly. Mosens. And please, crimereport.nyc. Don't forget, September 29th, also, big event, a stand-up event, which takes place at New York Vintners. Chef Ryan Smith. This guy cooks like you wouldn't, I'm not going to say like you wouldn't believe, because you'll believe it, but it's delicious. There's going to be some ribs. The last thing is called a porcalypse now.
That sounds
This guy-
delicious.
He combines these very interesting kinds of. It's a 3-course dinner meal, and we have comedians that entertain during it. That's the best part. You see comedians, and you eat at the same time, and then there's like a little break in between. Now it sounds like a hell gig, but the comedians like it because we get the free food. So please come, New York Vendors. I'm gonna put a link again. A lot of this goes back to crimereport.nyc. That's where you go. If you want to also go to my website, patdixonnyc.com. One more time, thank you, Polly.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to New York City Crime Report.
At the end of that audio, let's see. No, it's not.
We're going out of here.
No DNA match found.
No luck. No DNA match found on the evidence. Keep looking and scanning. This is it.
Streets are crawling with cops, but I got us this sweet ride. Just get down here.
I have no idea what the fuck's going on. I guess they cheated. Oh my god, are you not dead from a direct fucking hit? Fuck you. Oh, the game is so confused right now.
Yeah, she made a bad call in one I was reading about. This man had smeared feces all over his cell. And she thought, you know,
It's subtle, yes.
if I take him out of solitary, I'm just going to see everyone else doing that because they'll know that works.
The breeze would blow by about every 45 seconds to a minute and a half.
Yeah, then he tried to hang himself, and he didn't succeed in
Filled
hanging
with
himself,
this,
but
like,
she...
hot, fecal
That sounds delicious.
essence that it was just inescapable. And
His religious leader will reward him in the afterlife. So his
Smearing
version of death is so different.
smearing
that
feces all over
his
your
version
cell.
of death is so different that, you know, when you compare it to virgins
I think
and
if you
eternal
get
salvation
to that
and,
point,
you know, being
to that
respected
point
is-
where you're smearing feces all over your cell,
that sounds delicious.
it's got to mean it to do that, I think.
You know, when you compare it to feces all over his penis, and warning, do not attend, do not come.
Well, yeah, contrast that with, yeah, exactly, living on a cloud, and sure, undoubtedly toothy ladies, you know, like who don't know what they're doing yet, about to bite my dick and balls off, you know what I mean?
Virgins and eternal salvation, and they have no idea exactly what they're getting themselves into
Is
from
this
the
just
distance.
mushed up
just getting
audio?
from Istanbul to the Syrian border is an extremely difficult 14-hour journey.
People will,
There's bodily fluid involved.
they have to like masturbate. That's how you do training.
Yeah, it's even like if you see a very slobbery baby, you're just kind of like, I don't need that near me in
Hot,
public transit.
fecal cock,
That sounds delicious.
filled with this like,
I
sure.
think it's the bodily fluids thing that gets me.
Can't you just acknowledge your privilege?
Oh, I didn't make the right call on that one.
Just admit it.
Like, you just don't want to get them near you.
Can't you just acknowledge your privilege? Or if you masturbate long enough, eventually you're
I don't need that near me. And
well, yeah, contrast that with everything has been handed to you on a silver platter.
I don't know. I think it's.
You've never worked for anything.
I don't know. I think it's.
Getting your cock sucked by all these.
And if you don't want to get caught, you have to hop between cabs, and it's very.
Okay, that's it. The next person who walks onto this fucking car is gonna get some dick.
That sounds delicious.
Some dick.
Delicious.
Okay, that's it. Polly Mosens is gonna get some dick.
No, I'm hoping my grandchildren get to ride it. That's kind of my dream at this point.
There's a desperation inherent in that is beyond.
When you see someone throw up, it sounds delicious.
Why? Anyway. I'm sure he wanted me to record something else if you're even watching this, but, you know, I wanted my mom to not get cancer for Christmas, so... Deal with it!